Hi, I'm Chris and I'm going to tell you a little bit about my layout, Little Aller Junction. Some years ago I was at an exhibition and I saw the Osborne's Models limited edition model of Western Enterprise in desert sand livery. I just had to buy it, and that turned out to be quite an expensive decision. This loco was far too big for my little N Gauge branch line layout, so I decided a new mainline layout would have to be built. I decided to try to make a model of Aller Junction in Devon. The first thing I did was work out how I could use pico points to make a reasonable resemblance of the junction. The rest of the layout was then designed around this. It is 7 foot long and 40 inches wide. It is arranged so that each train leaves the storage siding it is in, goes through the junction and returns back to the same storage siding. Here is some video of the layout while under construction and being test run. The back scene might be of interest to folk. I started by taking some photographs of the real place. These photos were then edited and stitched together to make this size of back scene that I needed. Construction took about 2 years, and finally the great day of the first exhibition arrived. The layout is on 2 boards which pack nicely together and fits in the back of my hatchback together with all the other bits and pieces you need for an exhibition weekend. This is the layout set up and ready to run, and here we see 2 expresses, one heading towards Paignton and one heading towards Plymouth and Cornwall. It started out with stock suitable for the early 60s, but a few other locos came along, such as the 28XX running this clay liner train which would go all the way up to Stoke-on-Trent. And here are the milk empties returning to Cornwall. And Western Enterprise, this time on a lowly parcels train. And Class 22 on a local heading towards Paignton. Here are 2 up expresses, one from Paignton and one from Plymouth, both going through the junction together, which is quite acceptable. Followed by a westbound van train hauled by a 28XX. This would have to stop just past the junction to pick up a banking loco for the hills. And an up passenger train double headed by a steam loco and a diesel. This pannier has a short freight train for the Paignton branch. And here we see a prairie pulling a local passenger train back up from Torbay. We found it was quite good fun to run 4 trains at a time through the junction, but of course that's not really acceptable. The most that would have gone through the junction in real life would be 3 at a time. I then added the Broadway Imports Thunderstorm package, together with the ability to dim the layout lights. This provides what I think is an interesting effect for visitors, although I have to confess that the sound of thunder rattling around exhibition halls sometimes gets on fellow exhibitors' nerves. In the end, I added a button to the outside of the layout so visitors could create their own thunder. I then edited recordings of real trains to make it fit the time required for a train to go from one end of my layout to the other. Here are a few photos of details you might miss while watching the videos. The Land Rover on the occupation bridge, the farmer just shutting the gate after driving his tractor through, and the fishing party in Aller Brook. I now have a set of locomotives to suit the late 60s, and so at exhibitions the layout can be run as 1963 one day and 1968 on the next. Working signals were added a couple of years ago. This really adds to the pleasure of operating the layout. Here the blue high mech pulls up to the signal and waits for it to go to clear before proceeding. And here we see the same engineer's train, but from a different angle and with the Class 22 in charge. This has always been one of my favourite manoeuvres, but the working semaphores really add to it. We like to run the trains fairly sensibly most of the time, but sometimes, especially when youngsters are around, we just let them roll. And this is what it looks like around the back of the layout. I hope you have enjoyed hearing about Little Aller Junction. It is due to be completely dismantled in August in order to make way for a new project. Thank you for watching and goodbye.